But again, good evening. For so many of you. Great. So we are beginning the celebration of our 40 years. Anthology Film Archives, 40 years in New York. 40 years is not much. I just came back from Europe, seeing some old churches, cathedrals, thousands, hundreds of years old, and some of them took hundreds of years to build. 40 years, we are still building. To be a film museum, many young, especially young people from Europe, they come, they call, they want to be here. It's exciting. It's exciting. We are all hearing about Anthology Film Archives, cinema. But it's also for us who are working every day. Sometimes it's very down to earth. Like we have to fix our sidewalk. It's $120,000 just to fix the sidewalk. Where do we get the money? So, programming, film, we work hard, but it's exciting because it's all what? Because there is cinema. Some are classics and everybody admires and likes them. But there are also some that are as great and as beautiful as the film that you're going to see tonight, but does not yet really get enough appreciation. It's what you're going to see, the way I see, it's one, I mean, it gave me one of the most pleasurable cinematic experiences of last few years. So I'm happy that Jim is here. We are happy to show this film tonight, and it's great that so many of you are here.
Thank you so much for all being here. I'm very honored to be here, and also I'm honored really to celebrate Anthology Film Archives 40 years. I never got to go to the first incarnation of Anthology Film Archives, but I was often at the previous one on Worcester Street for a long time, many times, and I'm always creeping around here, and I love this place, and it's really a fantastic reservoir of amazing stuff. So anyway, thank you for coming, and thank you, Jonas. I'm a huge Jonas Mekas fan, so just to have him mention my name makes me nervous. But thank you, and I don't, I'll talk too much so someone will yank me off of here soon. But the first film is a little short, the first thing that I did in a series called Coffee and Cigarettes. And it was just a spur-of-the-moment film. A guy named John Head from Saturday Night Live called me up and said, "You want to make a short film for Saturday Night Live?" And I said, well, what kind of film? And he said, well, obviously it has to be funny, and it should be 5 minutes long, and you can own the film. We'll just pay for it, and you can show, it'll be part of the show. So that was a deal I couldn't resist. And two friends of mine, Roberto Benigni, who I had worked with just before in Down by Law, was in New York, and my friend Stephen Wright, the comedian who I love, was here also. So I wrangled them together. Jonas was showing me this building to see if he had just, I guess gotten the rights to make this into the new Anthology Film Archives, and it hadn't been redone in any way. But I was walking through the building with Jonas and telling him about this little film I was thinking of, and he said, why don't you shoot it in here? And we actually shot it right outside of this theater, in the hallway, in the lobby there. And it was great because it was kind of an abstract idea, the film anyway, as you'll see. And it just we just made it seem like a kind of abstract cafe of some kind. So the film was made very quickly. We improvised the night before, and I made some notes, and then they came, and I had a little map for them to follow, but I encouraged them to not follow it, really. And they kind of, you know, did what they did, which I was very happy with. So that's the first film, which led to a whole series called Coffee and Cigarettes over the years. And then the long film you'll see is my last feature film, The Limits of Control. It was shot almost 2.5 years ago now in Spain. And it originated from an idea. I always wanted to, I worked with this actor, Isaac de Bancole, on a number of films. This is our 4th film together. And I always had in the back of my mind, I wanted to make a film in which he was a lone criminal type guy on some kind of mysterious mission, a loner with a very strong code. And beyond that, I had no really idea what I wanted to do. So I wrote a really very short story, about a 25-page story with no dialogue in it, and decided to develop that as we went along into a feature film. And there was another project I was working on that I wasn't able to finance, that now I've rewritten and still trying to finance, that I just abandoned temporarily to make this film, The Limits of Control. The title comes from an essay by William Burroughs. It's not a reference directly to the title, but more of a lifting of the title. I was inspired a lot by some books, some crime fiction books by Richard Stark, who also writes under more known under the name Donald Westlake. He wrote a series of books about a character named Parker, a lone criminal guy, and I always loved those books, so that was kind of in the back of my mind. One of my favorite Hollywood films of the 60s is based on a Parker novel called Point Blank that John Borman made into a great movie with Lee Marvin and Angie Dickinson, which I loved very much. So I even called our company Point Blank Films. But anyway, one idea for this film was to try to remove things that people expect from a film. So I remembered when I made a film a long time ago, Stranger Than Paradise, and I encountered Andy Warhol a number of times in my life, and he saw Stranger Than Paradise, and I was in a club or something, and Andy was there, and he said, oh, I want to talk to you for a second. I saw your film, I really, really liked it. It was fabulous, but I have one criticism. I just think there was too much plot. And all the critics were saying, here's a film with no plot whatsoever. So that kind of, I remembered that kind of was echoing in my head as far as expectations. So The Limits of Control, I've described it as an action film with no action in it. I tried to remove things like a logical plot, emotions in a way, action, sex, guns, drama. So I wanted to see, what do you have left without those things, you know? Can you still make an interesting film that's a kind of trip that you take? So it's up to other people to see what they think. I usually recommend people ingest psychoactive mushrooms or something before seeing it. So it's sort of an interesting, it's like when critics say your film was interesting, you know, that usually is a very negative thing. But it was an interesting experiment in a way, and I also wanted to work with Isaac de Bancolet. I also wanted to work with Christopher Doyle, the cinematographer, who shot this film in an amazing way. He's very intuitive, and that was important. I was writing the dialogue as we went along, and I wrote it for certain actors, for Isaac de Bancolet, for Paz de la Huerta, for Bill Murray, and also for Tilda Swinton, and, well, other actors that I love that are in the film, John Hurt and Gael, who's incredible. So anyway, these actors are not really, they don't have names in the film. They're just like nude, blonde, you know, stuff like that. So even the main character is just lone man. So they're, in a way, the characters in the film that he encounters are just there in a way to amuse the main character and talk about something maybe interesting, to me at least, for a brief period. But he has a mission and he's following it, and it's, I like puzzle